Okay, let's unpack this. We are stepping into something today that feels, I don't know, incredibly grounded. Sometimes we do these deep dives and we're up in the clouds dealing with abstract theories or global trends.
Sure, 30,000-foot view.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But today feels different. We are right in the thick of a month of reflection, a month of celebration, and honestly, a month of discovery.
It is a significant time. We are, of course, talking about Black History Month, but what strikes me about the approach we're taking with this specific series of deep dives is the scope. We're not just looking at the national headlines.
Right.
We aren't doing the standard greatest hits of history that everyone, already knows from their high school textbooks.
Exactly. We're zooming in. We are getting hyper-local. We are focusing specifically on Rutherford County and the stories that make up the fabric of this specific community. And the mission here is pretty specific, too. We aren't just listing dates and names on a timeline. We're trying to understand the concept of Black excellence. And not just as a historical footnote, right? Not just something that happened back then in sepia tone.
That is the key distinction. If you treat Black excellence as a museum exhibit, you miss the entire point. We're looking at it as a living, breathing force.
Yeah.
It's an active energy in the community. It's a continuum. And today specifically marks a bit of a shift in our analysis. It is Monday. We are kicking off week 2 of this month-long series.
A new chapter.
A new chapter. And if week 1 was about setting the foundation, looking at the past week 2 is all about the here and now.
The present tense. I love that. It's about the people holding the baton right this minute. And to kick off this focus on the present, we're looking at a source that I think is just fascinating. It's a radio show, but it's not just any radio show. It's called Simplicity.
Simplicity. It's an evocative title, isn't it?
Yeah.
Especially in our current world.
It really is. It just kind of stops you in your tracks. It airs on WGNS. If you were local, you might catch it on Sundays. It runs from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. And I want to be specific about that time slot, 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. That is that transition time,
It is the twilight hour, the Sunday evening wind down.
Yeah, the weekend is winding down. The Sunday scaries might be kicking in for some people. And the work week is looming. It's a time when people are looking for simplicity.
It's a strategic choice.
Yeah.
In broadcast psychology, that Sunday evening slot is prime real estate for reflection. People are cognitively loaded. They're tired from the week, maybe a little anxious about the week to come.
Right.
And naming a show Simplicity in our current climate is almost an act of rebellion. I mean, think about it. We live in a world that is incredibly noisy.
Constantly.
We are just bombarded with complex, conflicting information 24/7. So to carve out an hour and dedicate it to the concept of simplicity, to basically say, we are going to pause and find the signal in all this noise, that is a powerful move.
It is. It's a statement of intent.
Yeah.
And the heartbeat of this show, the reason we're diving into it today, comes down to 2 women, 2 hosts. And here is where it gets really interesting. They are both named Angela.
The 2 Angies. Sounds like a duo you'd see on a marquee.
It does. We have Angela Bingham and Angela Ponder. But to their listeners, to the community that tunes in every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m., they are Angie B. and Angie Renee.
Okay.
And what we're going to do today is really explore who these women are. Because on the surface, you might just see radio hosts. But when you dig into the source material, you realize they are so much more than that. They are community anchors.
They really represent the archetype of the modern community leader. And I think that's why this deep dive is so relevant to our theme of Black excellence in the present tense. These aren't people just watching history happen from the sidelines.
No.
They are actively shaping the narrative of their community in real time. They are the ones doing the work that, historians will be writing about in 50 years.
That's a great way to put it. So here's the roadmap for today. We have a lot to cover because this isn't just a biography. It's really a sociology lesson. First, we need to bridge the gap. We need to do a quick recap of the themes from week 1 to understand the soil these women grew out of. We're talking about that continuum of Black excellence.
Context is everything. You cannot understand the fruit if you don't understand the root. It's essential.
Exactly. Then we're going to pivot to the present. We are going to profile Angie B., who the source is called the steady hand.
Okay.
Then we're going to profile Angie Renee, who's called the voice of wisdom. And finally, we're going to try to synthesize all of this. Why does their specific brand of leadership, this simplicity, why does it matter so much right now?
It's a solid plan, and I think starting with that recap is crucial. You really can't understand the present without first understanding the foundation.
Right. So let's go back to week 1. The sources describe this idea of a continuum. I love that word.
Oh.
It implies that excellence isn't this like sporadic thing that just pops up now and then.
No, it's not a flash in the pan.
It's a line. It's connected.
Precisely. A continuum suggests an unbroken chain. Last week, the deep dives focused on the past. And there were these distinct pillars that established what Black excellence looks like historically in Rutherford County. The first pillar was the pioneers.
The pioneers. These are the early builders, right? The ones who literally built the community.
Yes, but let's look closer at what that really means. These are the individuals who created opportunity from, in many cases, absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Think about the context of the post-Civil War era or the early 20th century. The infrastructure for Black success didn't exist. There were no small business loans, no government grants, no welcoming committees.
The opposite, in fact.
The absolutely opposite, active resistance. So everything had to be built brick by hand. These pioneers were the ones laying the literal and metaphorical roads. They were engineers of survival.
So they built the hardware of the community, the schools, the businesses, the churches, the physical structures.
Correct. And then building on top of that hardware, you had the second pillar, the foundation layers.
The foundation layers. This is such a fascinating category. The sources describe these people as the spiritual leaders and the protectors.
Think of them as the software that runs on the hardware.
Oh, that's good.
The pioneers built the structures, but the foundation layers built the culture. They established the moral backbone. In many ways, they were the ones who decided, who are we going to be as a community? They established the values, resilience, faith, mutual support that would sustain the community through the incredibly hard times of segregation and Jim Crow.
That distinction is so important. You need the building, but you also need the spirit inside the building. You need the code.
You need the code. And then there was this third category that I think is my favorite and maybe the most relevant to today's deep dive: everyday excellence.
Ah, yes.
This is often the most overlooked category in historical analysis, but sociologically, it is arguably the most vital. Everyday excellence refers to the neighborhood stabilizers, the memory keepers.
The stabilizers.
Yeah.
I like that term. It's not flashy.
It's not. These aren't necessarily the people giving big speeches or holding public office. These are the people who watched the neighbor's kids so a mother could go to work. The people who organized the church potlucks that were really, community strategy sessions, the people who checked in on the elderly. It is the social glue.
Without the glue, the whole thing just falls apart, no matter how strong the bricks are.
Exactly. Without everyday excellence, the work of the pioneers and the foundation layers would eventually crumble. It requires constant maintenance. And that maintenance is done by everyday people performing small acts of excellence consistently over decades.
So it's the accumulation.
It's the accumulation of thousands of small, positive actions. That's what builds a resilient community.
And then, of course, the final pillar from last week, the historical trailblazers. The names that maybe didn't make the big national textbooks, but are absolute vital to the county's identity. So that was week one. That was the past. We established that there is this rich, layered history of building, protecting, and stabilizing.
And that brings us to today, Monday, the start of week 2.
The shift.
The shift. We are moving from the history books to the radio waves. We are moving from what happened to what is happening. We are looking for the voices that are shaping community life right now. Who is carrying that baton?
And that is where the two Angies come in. If week one was about the ancestors, week 2 is about the active agents. And the source material frames Angela Bingham and Angela Ponder, Angie B. and Angie Renee as the very embodiment of this current leadership.
It's a perfect transition because when you look at their profiles, which we're about to get into, you see echoes of those past pillars. You see the foundation layer in their spiritual grounding. You see everyday excellence in their constant service.
But with a modern twist.
But it's happening in the present day, using modern technology like radio broadcasting to amplify that work. It's the same spirit, just a different toolkit.
So let's dive into the first profile. Let's talk about Angela Bingham, better known as Angie B.
Angie B.
The sources have a very specific way of describing her. They call her the anchor. And when they talk about her role on the show, Simplicity, they call her the steady hand.
That term steady hand is loaded with meaning, isn't it? In a broadcasting context, the steady hand is the person who keeps the ship on course.
The rudder.
Exactly. Live radio can be unpredictable. You have callers, you have heavy topics, you have the clock ticking down. You need someone who stays grounded, someone who doesn't get swept away by the emotion of the moment, but can hold space for it.
Hold space. That's a term we hear a lot. But what does it actually look like in practice for Angie B? What does that mean on a Sunday night at 6:30?
Well, it means maintaining a calm, clear, and grounded spiritual presence. She's the one guiding these conversations on healing and purpose. When the conversation gets difficult, and on a show about real life it often does, she is the one who ensures it remains productive and safe, not just for the person on the other end of the line, but for everyone listening at home.
So she's like a moderator for the community's soul.
That's a good way of putting it, but here is where it gets really interesting for me. It's not an act. This isn't just a radio voice she puts on.
No.
No, it is not a persona. And that is the difference between a personality and a leader. A personality performs. A leader embodies.
And the source material makes a huge point of this. Her lived ministry goes way beyond the microphone. It says she is known for showing up for people long, long before the on-air light turns on.
This is critical. We live in an era of, let's be honest, performative empathy, especially in media. It's easy to post a hashtag. It's easy to sound compassionate for an hour when people are listening.
Sure.
But the sources highlight that Angie B's reputation is built on off-air actions. It's not theoretical. It's things like feeding the homeless, supporting families in the middle of a crisis, literally praying with people in their darkest moment.
It says she offers presence, not just words. That line really stuck with me.
Let's dig into that. That distinction, presence versus words, is the hallmark of true community leadership. Words are cheap. Words are easy to broadcast. Presence requires physical proximity. It requires time. It requires emotional labor.
It's the hard part.
It's the hardest part. To sit with someone in a crisis, to physically provide food, that is the everyday excellence we talked about from week 1 manifested right here in the present. It is the dirty, unglamorous, unseen work of caring.
There's a line in the notes here that says, her ministry is lived, not performed. And it contrasts situational compassion with steady compassion. Let's break that down because I think that's a really important idea.
Let's parse that. Situational compassion is reactive. Something bad happens, a disaster, a tragedy in the news. You feel bad, you donate $10, you share a post, you move on.
Right. It's fleeting.
It's fleeting, and it's often about making the giver feel better, as much as it is about the receiver.
It's the dopamine hit of, I help.
Exactly. But steady compassion, that is a discipline. That is a character trait. It is who you are, regardless of the situation. It is showing up when there is no camera, no disaster, just the slow, daily grind of need.
Showing up on a random Tuesday.
Showing up on a random Tuesday when nobody's watching. Angie B represents that steady compassion, and I think that explains why she is such an effective anchor on the radio.
Because the listeners can feel it. They can sense that authenticity.
Absolutely. The audience is smart. We have an excellent radar for inauthenticity. When Angie B speaks about simplicity or healing or faith on the air, it resonates because it is backed by the equity she has built in the streets. Her words have weight.
So she doesn't just talk about simplicity. She embodies it in her actions. She embodies the clarity of purpose.
She walks the walk. And that provides the credibility for the talk. You cannot fake the kind of authority that comes from live service. It's impossible.
Okay, so we have the anchor, Angie B. The spiritual backbone, the steady hand. Now let's look at the other side of this duo. Let's talk about Angela Ponder.
And this is important. Her on-air name is Angie Renee.
Yes, and I want to make sure I get this right based on the notes. It is pronounced Angie Renee, R-E-N-E-E, not Angie Nay. It's Angie Renee.
Getting the name right is the first step of respect. It's about acknowledging the identity she has chosen to present to the world.
Absolutely.
Right.
So Angie Renee, the sources describe her as the voice of wisdom. And I love this description they use. She is the truth teller with a soft landing.
That is a beautiful metaphor, isn't it? Truth teller with a soft landing. It implies honesty without brutality. It implies clarity without cruelty.
Right, because sometimes truth tellers can be harsh, they can be abrasive. It's almost like a defense mechanism.
Exactly. There is a style of leadership that uses truth as a weapon. I'm just being honest, they say, while they, tear you down. Angie Renee's style is different. She provides this complementary strength to Angie B. Well, if Angie B is the steady anchor holding the boat in place, Angie Renee is like maybe the navigator. She's the one charting the course. She speaks directly, but she never loses that warmth. Her tone is defined by grace. She creates a soft landing so that the truth can actually be received and processed, rather than just bouncing off a defensive wall.
That is a very, very high-level communication skill. And while Angie B's profile focused heavily on her lived ministry and personal one-on-one interactions, Angie Renee's profile introduces a different, equally important layer of Black excellence: institutional leadership.
This is a vital pivot in our discussion. We often associate community work with informal volunteering, with that everyday excellence pillar. But Angie Renee shows us the other side of the coin. She holds a formal professional role. She is the board secretary and project manager for the Murfreesboro Rescue Mission.
Project manager. That is a very specific skill set. It's not just about having a big heart. It's about being organized.
No, it is about having a big brain for logistics. Project manager implies strategy. It implies timelines, resources, budgets, and execution. It's about getting things done efficiently and effectively.
It is. And the sources list her responsibilities: guiding outreach and community engagement, managing communications and public messaging, strategic planning for services, supporting the unhoused, and project coordination. This is serious work.
This is where we see the intersection of head and heart. We often think of charity work or community service as purely emotional, driven by kindness. And it is. But effective service, that requires strategy. That requires project management.
It's not enough to just want to help. You have to have a plan to help, a sustainable plan.
Exactly. You need logistics. You need communication strategies. You need to coordinate resources so that they actually reach the people who need them in a way that preserves their dignity. Angie Renee brings that strategic mind to the table. She is thinking about the how. How do we support the unhoused effectively? How do we message this to the public so they understand the need and feel compelled to act? How do we make this sustainable beyond one holiday food drive?
It's the difference between a moment and a movement, or a movement and an organization. She helps turn that raw compassion into a sustainable system.
And that is a form of excellence that is incredibly powerful and often invisible. It is operational excellence. It is the invisible work behind the scenes that makes the visible work possible. Without the project manager, the food doesn't get to the pantry, the volunteers don't know where to go, and the message gets lost in the noise.
But what makes Angie Renee so fascinating, based on these sources, is that she doesn't just stay in the boardroom. She isn't a distant administrator looking at spreadsheets.
No, she is a hybrid leader, a true bridge builder.
The sources are very clear on this. She has a huge grassroots component, too. She supports women and families. She participates in community feeding efforts, just like Angie B. And she offers counsel rooted in lived experience.
So she bridges that gap. This is rare. You don't often find people who are fluent in both languages. She can sit in the board meeting and discuss strategic planning and public messaging, speaking the language of donors and institutions and city government.
Right.
And then she can go out to the feeding line and offer a word of encouragement to someone under extreme pressure, speaking the language of the street, the language of shared struggle.
The sources say her wisdom is earned. What do you think that means?
Earned wisdom usually means wisdom that comes from overcoming difficulty. It isn't theoretical wisdom from a book. It means she knows what she's talking about because she has either lived it or has walked very, very closely with those who have. When she offers counsel, it carries weight because the listener knows she gets it. She's not just talking down to me.
So you have Angie B., the anchor, the steady spiritual presence. And you have Angie Renee, the project manager, the strategic thinker with the soft landing, the voice of wisdom.
Together, they form a complete unit: the heart and the head, the spirit and the strategy, the ministry and the management.
That brings us to the synthesis part of our deep dive, the power of simplicity and Black excellence. Why do these two women specifically matter so much? Why are we dedicating this time to them today?
I think it comes back to the archetype of the two Angies. They represent a model of Black women leading with love, service, and spiritual grounding. But the key word in all of this, the thread that runs through everything they do, is action.
Action, not just talk.
We talked about this at the beginning. Black excellence isn't an abstract concept. It isn't a theory you discuss in a classroom or a slogan you put on a t-shirt. For the two Angies, excellence is tangible. It is meals cooked. It is encouragement offered. It is conversations that heal rather than harm. It is project plans executed and homeless people sheltered.
It's stuff you can touch. It's results you can see.
Exactly. And when you frame their radio show in that light, seeing it not just as media or entertainment, but as an extension of that service,
It changes how you listen, doesn't it?
it completely changes the context. The radio show broadcasting every Sunday from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. becomes a form of community care. It is a service delivery mechanism. Just like the meals they serve are nourishing the body, the broadcast is nourishing the spirit of the community. It's a digital soup kitchen for the soul, if you will.
A weekly radio hour that feels like community care. I love that phrasing. It redefines what media can be, what it should be.
And if we connect this all the way back to week 1, to those pillars, to the foundation layers, these women are the modern iteration of that pillar. They are the spiritual leaders and protectors of the community's mental and emotional well-being. They are the ones holding the line against despair, against cynicism.
And they do it without a lot of fanfare. You don't see them chasing the spotlight or trying to build a brand.
That is the simplicity aspect right there. They aren't doing it for the fame. They aren't doing it to be influencers or to go viral. They are doing it because they are faithful to the mission. They hold the community together with faithfulness, not with fame.
It really redefines what it means to be a leader in Rutherford County, doesn't it? It challenges our idea of leadership. You don't have to be the loudest voice. You don't have to be the one with the biggest title or the most Instagram followers.
Yeah.
You just have to be steady. You have to be wise. You have to show up.
And you have to be consistent. That is the lesson of the two Angies. Excellence is consistency over time. It is showing up Sunday after Sunday, crisis after crisis, meal after meal. That's how you build trust. That's how you build a community.
This is only Monday, folks.
Yeah.
We are just getting started with week 2. This series is going to kid you every weekday, and there are so many more stories to tell regarding Black excellence in the county.
The well is deep. There is no shortage of excellence to uncover. We are just scratching the surface of the everyday excellence that exists all around us in every neighborhood.
And this is where you come in. We really want this to be interactive. We aren't just broadcasting at you. We want to build this archive with you. The question we are posing today is, who are the everyday heroes in your life?
Who represents Black excellence in Rutherford County to you? Who deserves to be honored? Who are the Angie B's and Angie Renee's in your neighborhood that nobody knows about yet? Who is the steady hand on your block? Who is the quiet strategist in your church or your community group?
We want your nominations. You can participate by messaging Jack Diggs on Facebook. That's Jack Diggs. Or you can email. And I'm going to give you this email address, so grab a pen or open your notes app. It is flyrod02@gmail.com.
Let's say that one more time.
It's FLYROD, the number 0, the number 2
Sure.
at gmail.com. So flyrod02@gmail.com.
Just flyrod02@gmail.com. Keep it simple.
Exactly. Send those stories in. Let's shine a light on the people doing the work. Let's make sure their names are recorded in this history we're building together.
It is important work. Highlighting these stories is, in itself, a way of strengthening the community fabric. Recognition matters. It validates the labor, and it inspires others.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought. We started with this concept of simplicity. And usually, when we think of simplicity, we think of doing less. We think of minimalism, of decluttering, taking things away.
We think of an empty room, or a quiet schedule, a blank canvas.
Right. But perhaps in the context of service, in the context of the two Angies, simplicity isn't about doing less. Perhaps simplicity is about clarity.
Clarity of mission.
Exactly. It's about the profound clarity of knowing what you are here to do. It is about helping others with a steady hand and a warm heart and stripping away everything else that distracts from that core purpose. That is what the two Angies do. They have that clarity, and that in itself is a form of excellence we can all aspire to.
It's about cutting through all the noise to get to the signal. And for them, the signal is love. The signal is service. It doesn't get any simpler or more powerful than that.
Helping others with a steady hand and a warm heart. That's the takeaway. That's the deep dive. Thanks for listening, and we will catch you tomorrow for the next chapter of this series.
Until then, stay curious.